and how to make sure that you are doing the appropriate accounting to make sure that you don't get in trouble 8 weeks down the road after you get your paycheck protection money funds to that you can then apply to get your get them forgiven, and you don't end up also with a very large tax burden or tax problem next year. You also don't want to run into an issue with fraud because you said that you needed the money to pay your employees, but then your employees were double dipping and getting unemployment insurance as well. So we've been talking up to our support providers about how to help their companies make sure that they navigate this crazy new world of regulations. And interestingly enough, I was talking with someone from the Kauffman Foundation earlier this week, and he actually referred to the support providers as the healthcare workers of the economy. And I realize that our healthcare workers are doing an amazing job working way overtime. But I think also when you look at the people like with our small business development centers and anyone who works with an entrepreneur, that they are working well overtime too to support these businesses that have no idea what they're going to be doing tomorrow, the next day, or even 6 months down the road. So along those lines, I have told you in the past that our Upstate Entrepreneur Ecosystem has 5 different work groups. We have the Upstate Vision Work Group, the Intersections Work Group, Global Entrepreneurship Week, Storytelling. Is that 4? Yes, sorry. Seems to me we have 5. All right, but we have 4 work groups that we're working on just regularly, and that I would tell you about one group each week. Last week we talked about, connecting the disconnected. That's the 5th one. There were 5. So we, but last week I talked to you about connecting the disconnected. This week I'm going to talk to you about storytelling. Our storytelling group got together because they realized that the image that we all have of an entrepreneur is not necessarily the reality of an entrepreneur. Just like I talked about that there are, almost 24 million micro entrepreneurs compared to just over 290,000 technology entrepreneurs. We forget, or the media hypes the high growth companies and the people getting all kinds of capital and venture capital money, and they got funded. They've got a $1 billion valuation and they are still not making any money. Those are so few. The number of those is so limited, and the likelihood that anybody's going to be involved in one of those businesses is very, very, very small, especially in our area. So our job with the storytelling group is to take the stories of the everyday entrepreneurs, the Main Street entrepreneurs, the folks who are also working in, the medical and bioscience industries, as well as technology, and get those stories out there in the media and different types of media. So they have collected videos that were already made. They also have lists of companies that are available to talk to the media. And we've also talked to the media about doing more stories about the entrepreneurs themselves, the just everyday entrepreneur, but also including in those stories information about who helped those entrepreneurs along the way, because that's where the ecosystem comes in. It's that transfer of knowledge from those who have it to those who need it, which is the entrepreneurs. And yes, people do help these entrepreneurs along the way to be more successful faster. So that our storytelling group is working on all of that. And if you have any videos or any companies that you would think you'd like added to the list, please contact Dean, or if you can, or email me. You can also, if you have some media and you would like to feature some entrepreneurs or some stories, we can help with that as well. So I think that's about it, Dean.
Great, thank you, Erin. And I will add, as Erin said, we're doing the calls every Tuesday. They are primarily for support providers, but certainly anyone is welcome to participate. The next couple of weeks, we're looking at some different elements of entrepreneurship and of helping people support themselves and their businesses and clients through this time and through the the crisis and into the coming months. So you're certainly welcome to participate if you're interested. It's at 1 o'clock on Mondays for that call. Tuesday, thank you.
Yes.
1 p.m. on Tuesdays.
Yes.
I want to add before we go to our next speaker, you will notice that we have gone back to the format of the regular Zoom meetings so everybody can see each other. Last week, I think the feedback we got was we felt a little isolated. So, through this, I think everybody has figured out how to use Zoom by now. You can chat individually to each other or collectively to the group. If you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share, if you have something that you found is humorous or a good news story or anything you want to share on chat, feel free to do so while we're on this call. Next,
wait, could I just throw out one real quick thing?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, so since we do get to see everybody, if anybody has had any business owner come to them and ask them questions or say, can you help me with this? Raise your hand right now.
Oh.
Okay.
Sorry.
See, we're all part of this.
Now do it now.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Dean. So we are all part of this. We're all working together to support these entrepreneurs. So thank you for your hard work. And if you need help with anything, just let us know. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Erin. And yeah, I'm by no means the most fluid expert on this. So next, I'm going to turn it over to Vee Daniel, who I hope most of you know. She is the president of the Upstate Better Business Bureau. And in this time where folks are getting money through the CARES Act, both individually and as businesses, I really can't understand. We talk about with our kids, and I'm sure many of you have the same thought where, we say if they will just use their powers for good instead of evil, we'll be in good shape. Well, it makes no sense to me why there are so many people who use their powers for evil instead of good as it relates to these kind of things. But we seem to have a lot of people who spend a lot of time and energy on how they can separate us from our resources. And so we're fortunate to have people like Vee out there who are monitoring and keeping us aware on these. So Vee, I will turn it over to you to share some of the things you've seen as it relates to fraud and scams and things going on now. All right, probably need to unmute Vee. I apologize, everybody, for the technology challenge. As I said, that's not always the greatest strength here. Vee is on the iPhone, and I think it's taken a minute for her to rejoin. I'm hoping that she will be unmuted. What is the term? The best laid plans? Okay, so while we're trying to get Vee back into the meeting, Sharon, why don't we go ahead real quick, and we can talk about our outreach around the social media and newsletters and things, and hopefully by the time you're done, I'll have Vee back online.
Okay. Yeah, we have, as I said a couple of weeks ago, several social media channels. We have the 10 at the Top and Upstate Vibe 365 Facebook pages. Both of those, 10 at the Top and Upstate Vibe 365, have a Twitter account. 10 at the Top is on LinkedIn, and Upstate Vibe is on Instagram. Active and sharing stories. One of the things that we are using our social media for is to share the guest posts that we have each week in our newsletter from the Staying on Top blog. And in fact, this week, if we don't ever get Vee online today, here, you can read her, the post that she gave to us to share. We've got it on our social media channels. And if you did not get the Upstate Vibe 365 newsletter, if you do get that, it was in there. We've had some really great posts from lots of different sectors, from education to baseball, and then Vee with the Better Business Bureau. And then also today we heard from Scott Carr from the airport. So we're just trying to get a lot of different perspectives and from all over the Upstate that goes out in the newsletter and in our social media.
Great. Vee, are you on now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. I don't know why you can't see me. That's the thing.
I apologize for that.
It said that the host had me on hold, so I went back in. Hold on a second.
We can hear you now if you want to go ahead and start.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and start. Sorry you can't see me. But you can hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to kind of start off by, a lot of this has already kind of been in the news, but I think it's happening more with businesses, where businesses are continuing to go in and, buy supplies, especially for their employees, like face masks. And we are still seeing a lot of scams on that. We had a company that bought 250 face masks for their employees and never received them because they purchased it from a website that was just started in January. So we've turned that over to FTC, but what we want to say is be savvy when it comes to product claims, and, actually supplements as well, supplements where it comes to where, everybody has a cure. As we know, there's not a cure right now for the COVID-19. And so we have to be on the lookout for that. We have a lot of our seniors. Seniors and millennials seem to be a lot of the population that are scammed, and it's because they are so trustworthy. And we have had it where, seniors are buying, vitamin E off the internet, where it says that it's a cure for the the coronavirus. So we're trying to warn them basically about only buy from reputable stores and websites. It's hard for a senior, which we deal a lot with. It's hard for seniors to even know how to maneuver with the internet to websites. So I guess if they've got on there and they purchase, they're not really looking them up. We always say, when in doubt, check them out. Be sure the store has a working contact information on a website if a business is purchasing for them. And also be sure to tell your employees, because we had it where an employee did a big purchase on, actually it was Lysol disinfectant wipes, and they bought them in bulk and they did not receive them as well. So be sure to share when you're if you're looking on the internet, I would say try to buy local if you possibly can. There is a lot of janitorial supply companies in our service area, well, actually all 10 counties that we serve, that actually have the products that are needed. So buy local and buy with someone that you can trust. The next scam that we'll talk about is our utility scam. We recently had a scam that was actually out of the Columbia area that was on Dominion Energy, which is formerly SC&G, where a restaurant owner received a call that their utilities was going to be cut off. And that the scammer, when he first started talking to him, he believed, he actually felt like he was a representative from Old Dominion, but then he ended up telling them that they were going to cut their his utility off, and then he could pay, right there over the phone. And then then the scammer, which is interesting, kind of messed up and said that they would either he could pay with that, or he could go and buy a gift card and give them the number off of the back of the card, and that's when the restaurant owner realized that it was a scam. But we see it a lot in the especially when it gets colder in the wintertime, and it's normally when we see utility scams, because as you know, just like now with the coronavirus, which is a sad time, they do, like Dean said, they come out, they just appear. Well, as we work hard for what we do, they, truly can make, from what the FTC article that I read, they can end up making 20 calls, and if they can make, $1,000 off of those 20 calls in a day, they feel like their work is done. So they are just constantly calling and or emailing basically to make a buck. And, there's no integrity in a scammer's name. So, we just have to be on the lookout. Utility businesses don't call, as we all know. They send late notices, and then they'll send a cutoff notice, and they never give a credit. What we tell consumers and businesses is never give a credit card to anyone over the phone that you don't know. Ask questions, because when you start asking questions, like when the restaurant owner started asking questions, the scammer hung up. But the thing was with that was 2 days after that, there was a business that did fall for it and did pay close to, I think it was over $1,100 to get his utilities turned back, try to get his utilities to turn back, so it's actually, whereas so they would not cut off his utility bill. So, and basically warn employees, especially the employee that's paying the bill, that, this could happen, that utility companies, they will try this by using them to call, and they're successful a lot of the time because they look up on the company's website to know who they should be calling, who is in accounts payable, who's in accounts receivable. So just be sure to be talking to your employees in case that you get something that, they would get a call like that, so they would not fall for it. Is there any questions so far?
No, I think we're good right now. If anyone has anything, they can add it to the chat, and we will get to it.
Okay. I'm going to move on to data scams. As we are all adjusting to our new ways of working, but it's business as usual for hackers. With more people telecommunicating, hackers are, hoping businesses will drop their online defense, so it's making it easier for them to, infiltrate data-rich networks. So not only with your employees, but leadership as well. We need, making sure that, especially with a lot of your, like us, and there's 9 of us in the office and 7 of us are working from home. So, we had to actually ask our employees to sign an agreement because we wanted them to know, this is, a lot of this is our property, and we have to make sure that we're protecting our data. So make sure that your employees' laptops are secured, and that their PCs are secured, and they don't have them, when they do have them just sitting out, that making sure that they lock their computers, that if someone else could end up getting them, or somebody could walk away with their laptop and their PCs. And then basically something I learned that I didn't know until was that when our IT guy, when he was actually going over, when everybody got hooked up at home, he was going over everything with them, and he told me to make sure that my router was making sure that it had a WPA2 and a WPA3 encryption on it. And if it did not have that, then basically, our data was in jeopardy. So if not, that it's most likely a old router, and to replace that router. We did have one employee that we had to replace the router, so to make sure that everything was secure. And then making sure that printed data that's no longer being used, such as they're printing something from home, that to make sure that they are shredding that information, because it's sad too, just like scammers, but trash and dumpster divers still exist today. That's why we do shredding events throughout throughout our 10 counties 8 times a year. And then making sure they're updating the router software. With that, we pay a lot of money, but we went to the Sonic Wall. I don't know if any of you guys have that, but it's been great for us, a great protection for us. Let's see, supply scams, with many businesses scrambling around for supplies. It's wise to heed warners about websites that mimic the look of well-known online retailers. They claim to have essentials you need, but they're fake. They take your order, grab your credit card, and they run. So as I mentioned earlier, if you're doing bulk if you're buying something or you're buying in bulk, just remember it's too good to be true when the price is so low that you're sitting here thinking that to yourself. This is too good to be true. If you have that gut feeling, or if your employees have that gut feeling, then it's a good feeling to have. One thing about these websites that are doing all these supplies, and especially any kind of coronavirus supply that people are having a hard time getting their hands on, but whenever you're on or their own site, you can do a Google image search, and all you have to do is click on the image. Say, for instance, if it's Lysol disinfectant wipes, you can click on that image and to your right, and then you can inspect that image through Google, and it'll take you to the next screen, which will show you where all those images are on the internet. So with that being said, if it's, if you see where it's all over the internet and it's not originally from that business, beware, because basically they stole that image off of another website. And another thing that we do at the BBB to research is whois.com, and it's to research the website. And if you're coming across a website that's just opened or new, beware. If you're coming across a website that basically a lot of the times that we see that's from overseas, I would tell you to beware. Again, buy local. Try to buy local when it comes to supplies. Text scams, you get a text message that it looks like it comes from the U.S. federal government, that we call that spoofing, and it's when the scammer changes their actual number to another number to make you want to pick up. So while consumers will pick up the phone, current reports say that scammers are impersonating the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, but they're unlikely to stop there. The message tells you that you must take a mandatory online COVID-19 test, and it has a link to a website. I would say, and what the BBB across the U.S. and Canada are warning, is no matter what the message says on your phone, don't click on any links. Government agency websites end with .gov, not, they don't end with .com, they don't end with .org, like the one, and they don't say usfederalgov.org, which was the scam that we came across. It would be, the agency.gov. Beware not only on scammer text messages coming from the government, but also right now, the census. They're wanting you to click on those links, and since the census is really big right now of getting consumers and to fill that out, it's also a scammer's dream. So stimulus money right now, if they're, one scam was saying, if there's more stimulus money, and there's more stimulus money coming, click the link. And you don't, as that some people would love that, to have more stimulus money coming to them from a lot of them have already got their checks, and if they could get more consumers, that would be wonderful. So it's just a way they think of any way to entice any consumer or business to engage with them. And that would be the 6 scams that I wanted to talk about today. So if you have any questions.
Great. Thank you, Vee. And I have a couple quick questions.
Sure.
And let's see if we have anyone has shared a question. I have one as it relates to, especially as it relates to the banking industry and the the money that most individuals have received, from the government. How do you know if, a lot of folks I've seen have, they copy the logo and things of a bank or a credit union and send out an email, and you think it's from a bank or credit union. How can you tell that those are not legitimate?
Well, are you saying in an email? Or are you saying it's coming
a lot of
in
times,
an email?
there'll be emails, and I forget the name of which company it was, but I saw one again the other day where there had been fraud where people were posing as a specific bank or credit union. Is there a way of kind of telling those apart, or just knowing that banks aren't going to email you?
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of the emails, if you look in the emails, and especially because a lot of the scams are international, when you look in the emails, what we tend to see is a lot of typos, or, and actually, it's the email address will tell, just like I mentioned earlier about .gov, the email address tells you a lot. So I would look at their email address, like say, for instance, if it says Bank of Travel, say Bank of Travelers Ref, which is one of our banks, is, if it says like Bank of Travel, if it's abbreviated or something like that, they'll change something, because when you see those scams, they don't really say the whole word, like Bank of Travelers Ref.
Okay.
And so I would definitely look at that. But also, if you get an email from your bank and it's something that, if it's something that you're not knew that was coming or you had no idea about, is to pick up the phone and call the bank. That's what I would say to do, because again, they look for every opportunity to try to scam. But with the bank, we see a lot more of the logos coming from different things, like the airlines. You want a trip for two, and then they have Delta Airlines logo on there, which we do a lot of warning about with that. With that, because they'll use any big brand to make themselves look real. So I would definitely look and then click on click on anything. If they have a picture on there on the email, click on that to make sure that you can inspect that through the Google image search.
Thank you, Vee. And I guess if there's one other takeaway, it's that there isn't anybody with, if someone tells me they have a bunch of toilet paper I can purchase, the likelihood is that it's a false ad, right?
Yeah, well, the beauty is now is the stores are now starting to be stocked with more of that, so it's not as bad as it was. But if you get one now that says, I have a bulk of toilet paper with 100 rolls and it's, $10, most likely you're going to know that's too good to be true, because that's what scammers do. They try to entice you by reduced prices. And it's, so yeah, I wouldn't say it would be a scam. There could be something that you get from hopefully a janitorial company locally, than a scammer. But I would say that because we have some online companies that actually put a lot out, and they put a lot more. They're not local, but these bigger companies, they've been doing a lot more I guess SEO, and especially too on social media. But a lot of those companies are real. It's just trying to figure out which ones are not and which ones are. So I would just say, when in doubt, always check them out. You can do that at bbb.org, but you can also, like I said, some of the other ways that I was mentioning during the webinar.
Perfect. And as Sharon mentioned, Vee did a great article that is on our website and email, and social media about kind of some of the scams to look for. So that's a great resource as well, and we'll include that in the email follow-up from this meeting. So Vee, thank you very much for your insights and for all the great work you guys are doing.
Yeah, and just to so you know as well, Dean, anytime that any business or any consumer has any question, they might have got something by email that one of their employees is showing them, or maybe they got it personally. And we've had it where executive leadership that where scammers have gotten money from the bookkeeping department because they got an email that it looks like it's coming from their boss, and that's telling them to send money to, this company, and this is where they need to send it, which they do that. It looks like they're coming from them because they might have changed the name on it just a little bit, but you don't normally look at that. But, we've seen that as well. So be sure, just, share stuff with your employees about what they should be doing and what they, what to look out for as well, because we get a lot of scams from supply, not just with the coronavirus, but all through the year of like office supplies, like bulk office supplies. That's one of the biggest ones that we get with businesses.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And in fact, Vee, we have had that issue with phishing or phishing, whatever it is, of my email to the staff just recently. So with that, we're going to go back to our Sharon, and we're going to do our county updates. And this time, we're just going to do a few of them with individuals. As those who were on the call last week know, we were tight from time, so we did not have the chance to hear from our friends in Abbeville or Union. So we're going to start with Tim Hall. And Tim, I'm hoping that you are on the call. I
am on the call. Can you hear me, Dean?
I can.
All right. I hope everybody else can too. I'll keep mine brief. I'm just going to kind of be specific to what we've seen at Abbeville Public Utilities and dealt with since the start of this. As most of you know, all of the utility bases and municipal utilities were asked to kind of honor the state of emergency in regards to disconnects for citizens and businesses at this time. So we're navigating that and working with our businesses and our residents to get through this. This will be our second monthly billing cycle, and I think this is where we'll really start to see some payment issues with folks, so we're preparing for that. Our biggest challenges we're seeing going forward is revenue projections due to, our industry shutdowns that are primary large users, and for those of us that are small, that's going to be our biggest challenge going forward, as we have to maintain things in the black due to bond ratings and other projects. So that's going to be a tremendous challenge for us with repercussions going forward. On an interesting note, when we first started, due to some of the mandates, we had to shut our lobbies and drive-throughs down temporarily. We've since reopened the drive-through, but communicating with the people that are not in touch with reality as far as having the day-to-day services and graces of knowing how to navigate computers and pay online, that's been a big struggle. Since we're so rural, we have a lot of people that would rather work in cash. So, excuse me, that's what we've dealt with in trying to communicate with these people. As everybody knows, the world with water and sewer and electricity keeps turning. So trying to honor those services the best we can by honoring social distancing and whatnot with our crews has been a challenge. We've kind of returned to somewhat normal with that. I think next week we will be back to normal as best we can and continue to honor those services. So that's kind of what we're seeing down here. County is also returning to normal services as far as public works and their road crews and things like that. So that's really kind of all I've got on my end at the time.
Great, thank you, Tim. And hopefully things will continue to get to even more of a normal as the next few weeks and months come. So with that, we're going to next go. I'm looking for Catherine. I don't see her number. Oh, there she is. Hi, Catherine.
Hello there.
Welcome. Thank you for being with us and look forward to having an update from Union.
Okay, let me just tell you what's going around, what we're doing here in Union County. Number one, our comprehensive plan. We've been working on this thing for quite some time, and we should have it complete. The Planning Commission should have it ready for our supervisor, Frank Hart, in another week or two. So we see the light at the end of the tunnel with that. So that's our 20-year comprehensive plan. The next thing is our transit, which we've been trying since 2018 to come up with a transportation plan, and everything, we've got everything together except a lead agency, one who can take this on. We're trying to figure out how to implement it, and it will be implemented for the first 3 years. It'll be like a trial basis to see how this thing is going to go. But based on the survey results, the consultants and everything, it is something that Union County does need. Of course, I could have told them Union County needs transit before, they ask anybody. So that's going on. And then our Operation Workforce Training, which I'm sure you've heard about, that's with the students, high school seniors who will not be going off to college and want to get to work right after graduation. We've had probably 4 or 5 classes of students in the last year and a half to graduate. And once they graduate, the wonderful part is these companies really want them because they've learned all this information regarding manufacturing. And they have certifications like OSHA certification, forklift certification. So these young kids can get jobs making close to $15 an hour, and that's pretty good for 18-year-olds. This last group that graduated, I think it was last month, they were waiting until graduation to get a job, but now with everything that's going on, we're not certain when they will start. As you know, a couple of our companies have furloughed their employees, and so everything's kind of at a standstill with this group. The other part with the Operation Workforce Training is that Lockhart Power rewards them with $500 cash once they complete the class. And so that's a great little incentive as well. And then the last thing I'll share with you, which you may be surprised, our bank here in Union County, Upstate, was they assisted 40 small business owners with the loans. And that is just fantastic. 40 small business owners here in Union County received that. Now, on another note that's not so happy, Frank, County Supervisor Frank Hart, asked me to contact small businesses to see if we could do a Zoom meeting or a conference or whatever to find out some things that, they were concerned about. As I began to make the calls, I felt as if I was a counselor or a psychiatrist or a chaplain, because a lot of them just wanted to talk. And there's some very sad stories about their businesses that's going on right now, and it really breaks your heart. 2 that I'm really concerned with is one who has a boutique, and her questions had to do with the tax return and filling out the information and if she would qualify. Questions I cannot answer. And then she talked about having to spend several $1,000s on the roof. I mean, it's just a lot. And then another one, a man's business, he said if he doesn't get this disaster loan, his business is going to close down. So, there's some good and some bad, but those are some things that are happening here in Union County. I think
Great.
that's, that's it for me.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. And I would say, Aaron Oots, who talked earlier about the things going on with the entrepreneur ecosystem group, may be able to help with some of those connections to folks who are experts in some of those areas. So we'll make sure the 2 of you connect offline. And I think Aaron would also agree that the psychology piece is important. In fact, that's one of the topics we plan to have a speaker on in the next couple of weeks. So thank you for that. And I'm excited to hear about the positive things, especially around the transportation plan, because I know that's been going on for quite a long time in the works. So thank you for that update. Next, we will go to Annie Caggiano, who I feel like Annie, well, I want to say welcome, but you've been in the region now for 5 or 6 months, and welcome to all this fun. But you have really had, of course, on a serious note, we've talked about this last week, a double whammy there in Oconee, but I have read and seen a lot of very positive community efforts trying to deal with, of course, not just COVID-19, but also the tornadoes that came through there. So if you could share, we wanted to have you share a little bit about what's going on there in Oconee.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm glad I could make it today and see everybody. You know, it's our positive and our negative are probably one and the same. You know, the tornado had a very devastating effect on the county. General numbers right now, we don't have a lot of approved numbers, but we know at least just under 80 homes are a complete loss. We're still looking at 170 homes just around that have tremendous damage, but we don't know if they're complete loss yet or can be repaired. But and the total number is 1,400 homes that had some sort of damage during the storm event. So that's a huge part of our community when you especially think about the size of Seneca, but also the size of our population in Oconee County. Everyone saw the news about Borg Warner. You know, they are just going gangbusters on that building right now, getting back up and running. So we feel confident that they will be open soon, is all I can say. Weeks or months, we don't know yet, but there's certainly a lot of boots on the ground getting them back up and running. So, you know, obviously a negative that we had that storm event and that we're possibly going to have more storm events today. I'm sure Emily DeRoberts is concerned about that as well, you know, from the power perspective, but it's also our positive. Like I mentioned, you know, everyone saw how the together and really tried to help out to help their neighbor. You know, nobody asked, nobody sent out a message like, please, we need volunteers. People just literally showed up. So it really does show how tight-knit a community this is. You know, me only being here 6 months, it's been awesome to see, both on, you know, not only the neighbor side, but the existing industry side. We've had, Itron has donated time and money to the relief effort. BASF has also donated time and money, and so has Duke and the Oconee Nuclear Station. So we've really had everyone kind of chip in and help out each other. So it's been great to see. But as far as the COVID crisis, you know, we, our small businesses are struggling, but everyone is pitching in to kind of help them out and make sure they have all the resources that they need. But as far as our industrial base, you know, some of our larger employers, they're doing pretty good considering, you know, they're having supply chain issues, but other than that, it hasn't had a tremendous impact on them, which is good for us because that's a large amount of our employment base in the county.
Great. Well, thank you, Annie. I appreciate that. And I'm afraid Emily might be too busy to help you since she's hanging out at the beach there, if you can see her background. Thank you. With that, Sharon is going to share some of the things she heard from other counties. We asked the other counties to give us a positive thing and then a struggle or a challenge. And Sharon, if you want to share what's going on in the other counties, that would be great.
Okay. Yeah, I will just go down the list alphabetically. So from Anderson, I heard from Pam Christopher of the Chamber of Commerce. The encouraging thing she says is that the county offices have been great about checking in with the municipalities and school districts daily, seeing what they need and keeping them informed. The challenging thing is, even the biggest thing is that even with all the money that's been received, it's never enough. And with the CARES Act money depleted, it's left people and businesses needing more, waiting for the next round of funding. So that's probably going to be true across the board. Cherokee County, from the encouraging thing from Ken Moon in Economic Development is that the Dollar Tree Distribution Center there in Cherokee County is hiring an additional 100 people to keep up with demand. And then Franny Stockwell from the Chamber of Commerce gave me a challenging thing is that they are starting to see some businesses close and others who were unable to get the loans for a variety of reasons. Either they don't qualify or the funding is gone. From Greenville County, I heard from Terry Brinkman of Greenville County Schools. For the encouraging thing, she says, today we served the 500,000th free meal to a child in Greenville County. That's huge. Been providing free meals to children 18 and under since the first day of the closure. We've expanded our location from 15 original schools to 84 sites, 69 of which are delivered by buses, which stick around for 2 hours to provide free Wi-Fi access to students in the area. The challenging thing, parents are disheartened and overwhelmed, trying to balance work, home, economic stress, and supervising schoolwork. Students miss their teachers, friends, and routines. Teachers are finding it harder to teach and engage students remotely. Seniors are missing out on proms, unsure about what graduation ceremonies will be possible. So yesterday's news that we are closed to in-person instruction for the rest of the year is the right thing to do and not unexpected, but everyone is grieving just a little. From Greenwood County, from Angela Laborde, who is still with us for a little while at the chamber. The encouraging thing is that they are still seeing economic development activity plus existing industry project expansion. That's good news. Challenges, they are working through details to try to create a recovery plan once things get back to normal with community partners. From Lawrence, I spoke to Jonathan Irick of Main Street Lawrence. For the most part, he says business have stayed active, embracing online and delivery options, and the community has been very supportive of both retail stores and restaurants. Challenge, again, this is across the board, lack of funding. Only one business was able to get a PPP loan and one got EIDL advance. There's also concern about how things are going to look with social distancing in the near future, even as businesses are reopening, and how to have events and drawing customers. From Pickens County, I spoke to Cindy Hopkins from the Easley Chamber of Commerce. The encouraging thing, she says, people are adapting to a virtual or remote business model. It's forced some to cross that bridge who had been reluctant, and they're seeing an enhancement that will carry over to how they'll do things long term. Also, people are doing creative things to give back to first responders and medical personnel. An unexpected challenge has been that recycling centers and landfill have doubled and tripled their average intake. The average day is higher than the normal high weekend of spring cleaning, and they're having to bring in extra containers and trying to man the centers, which are sometimes manned by older individuals who are being encouraged not to work as much. So that's adding to that challenge. In Spartanburg, last I spoke to Alex Moore of the United Way of the Piedmont. The encouraging thing she says is the responsiveness of multiple organizations and the collaboration. She says Spartanburg is always good at that, but this is really shining a light on the willingness to work together. And also she wanted to highlight the amazing response they've had to their COVID relief fund. They've raised over $220,000, mostly from corporate donors. The challenge that she's seeing is confusing information and misinformation and helping people sort through it. What's open, what's not open, what are the guidelines?